Now, what Andy Beshear and I do agree on is that this race isn't about Republican versus Democrat. What we differ on, however, is what it is about. I think it's about crazy versus normal. And I think it's crazy to have a governor who openly endorses Joe Biden, doesn't protect women's sports from biological males, puts criminals back on the streets, vetoes tax cuts, shuts down your small businesses, our schools, and shut down your churches. But ladies and gentlemen, we do not have to at all accept the crazy Biden and Beshear agenda. We can have a Commonwealth that is about good quality schools, making sure that we stand up for our teachers, that we keep our streets safe from crime and drugs, and we get folks working again, and we eliminate Kentucky's income tax. That's where we can go together. I hope you will vote for me on November 7th. Thank you so much.
All right, we got some questions for you both now. The candidates haven't seen any of these questions that are going to be asked of them tonight. Here's how this section will work. Candidates, you'll each have 60 seconds to answer each question. The candidate who answers first will be permitted a 30-second rebuttal if the other candidate mentions you by name in his answer. The coin toss for the first question went to Governor Beshear. We will start then. You will start first answer of the first question. Let's start with our man from Louisville, WDRB anchor Gilbert Corsi. The first question to Governor Beshear.
Evan, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. It is an honor to be a panelist here tonight. Let's start in the category of labor. Right now, 8,700 people are on strike at a Ford plant in Louisville. The UAW, one of many strikes that we've seen recently, from manufacturing to healthcare, even to Hollywood. So, Governor Beshear, what would your administration's policy be on balancing workers' rights, business interests, and the economic impact of union strikes?
Well, I'm proud to be a governor endorsed by the UAW and that has landed the biggest investment in the history of Ford Motor Company, a really proud company. What we have to have here is a win-win. Our UAW families are fighting for better wages and better health care benefits, something we should want for every single one of our citizens. We need them to come out of this, being able to provide more opportunity for their kids, a better future here in Kentucky. But we also need a strong Ford coming out of it. They invested $5.8 billion in our Commonwealth. We're building the two biggest battery plants on planet Earth. And I was the governor that struck the deal for them to re-up that Kentucky truck plant to make the new F-250, investing hundreds of millions of dollars in preserving all of those jobs. This isn't an either or. We need the UAW to come out in a strong place and Ford to come out in a strong place too.
A follow-up to you, Governor Beshear. You are proud of your UAW support, but part of the reason that those workers are on strike right now is that they are worried, though, that the jobs at the battery plant will be non-union, and that will take away union jobs. So the question is, what have you done to prevent that from happening?
When we landed the largest investment in the history of the Commonwealth, $5.8 billion, 5,000 new jobs coming to Glendale, making us the electric vehicle battery production capital of the United States of America, right here in Kentucky. We knew it was not only going to ensure we were a part of the automotive future, that we didn't lose jobs that some other states might be, but that we would also preserve those jobs at LAP and at the Kentucky truck plant. We realized that where the batteries are going to bring in the rest of the industry, from the supply chain to EV to also the assembly work. Landing that ensured we will be an automotive leader into the future. So I'm the only person on this stage that both has the cell phone number of the local UAW president as well as most of these Ford officials. We can get this done. We must get it done. And it has to be a win-win now and for the future.
Attorney General Cannerman, to you, what would your administration's policy be on balancing workers' rights, business interests, and the economic impact of union strikes? I should say 60 seconds.
Well, Gilbert, thank you for that question. And I think that we have to have a swift resolution of what is going on, not only at the Ford plant here in Louisville, but also as we see this transpiring across the nation. But I also want to say unequivocally that I support our workers. And it's no question that we are in this mess because of the inflationary pressures that are coming from Washington, D.C. And wages need to be increased. These workers know that, but they are having to deal with the challenge of more expensive groceries, more expensive gas, and more expensive childcare. What I think is incredibly important is that you have a governor that eliminates the income tax to make sure that these folks have more money in their pocket to pay for those things that I just talked about, and also, again, increase their wages at the plant. I support the workers and will make sure that they have leadership in the governor's office that works for them.
A follow-up to you, Attorney General Cameron. You had previously criticized what you called, quote, green energy fantasies. Well, those EV battery plants are going up in your old stomping grounds in Hardin County. Those jobs are very real. It's 5,000 of them, as Ford has said. So who deserves the credit for Kentucky landing that mega project?
Well, look, I applaud the work of our legislature. Look, on every economic policy that has been of benefit to Kentucky, this governor has stood on the opposite side, whether it be prevailing wage or right to work or cutting your taxes. This governor has been on the other side of it. It is because of the work of our legislature, folks like Chris McDaniel and Senator Schickel, who have done the good and responsible work of making sure that we have a pro-business environment. And on top of that, one of the reasons in which these plants want to come to Kentucky is because they can be guaranteed low cost and reliable energy. And that is because of our coal industry. And right now, I'm in the process of fighting the closure of 3 coal-fired plants in Kentucky, because if we lose those, we will lose our competitive advantage and we will lose reliable and low-cost energy.
We had to mention Governor Beshear. If you so choose, you have a 30-second opportunity.
This is what happens when you have one of the most partisan candidates for governor that we've seen. Anything good that happens must be the General Assembly. Anything bad that happens must be the governor. The answer to how we landed these Ford plants, because I was in the room, was together. We presented to Ford. We held a special session for Ford. We came together with an agreement about how to get them to pick us. The way we bring in jobs of the future is recognize they're not Democrat or Republican. We're not Team Red or Blue. We're just Team Kentucky.
Our next question will be from Link NKY Managing Editor Megan Goth. Attorney General Cameron, you will start with this question.
The General Assembly passed legislation in 2022 setting charter school funding and deadlines for pilot charters in Jefferson County in northern Kentucky. Since then, litigation has also been filed claiming that charter funding violates Kentucky's Constitution. What is your vision for spending on public schools, and does it include charter schools, vouchers, pay increases for teachers, or anything else?
Well, look, I appreciate that question. I'm glad to be here tonight with my wife, Mackenzie, who is a public school teacher. She spent nearly 7 years in the Oldham County school system, teaching 5th and 3rd grade. And so she, myself, my sister-in-law, who teaches in JCPS right now, want to make sure that we have a world-class education system here in Kentucky, one in which our schools are about reading, writing, and math, and they aren't incubators for liberal and progressive ideas. And I've offered the Cameron catch-up plan to catch up our kids on the disastrous decision that this governor made to shut down our schools, whether they be public or private. This governor tried to shut them down. We need leadership that's going to catch our kids up, going to make sure that we increase the salaries of our teachers, restore discipline to the classroom, and remove any bureaucracy that might exist that disconnects our teachers from our students.
Governor Beshear, what is your vision for spending on public schools? And does it include charter schools, vouchers, pay increases for teachers, or anything else?
I believe in public education. I'm a product of Kentucky's public schools, and I would not be where I am today without so many educators. I've shown how I'll stand up for public education from the time I was Attorney General. And I took Matt Bevin's sewer bill, which my opponent's running mate had championed to court, to protect the pensions of every educator, police officer, and firefighter out there, and thank goodness we won. As governor, I have stood with our public education system and against any effort to defund it. My opponent's catch-up plan has vouchers in it which would defund tens of millions of dollars in our public schools. Take money out.
We are here to defend democracy.
Misinformation poses a threat to our nation's health.
Climate change is an emergency.
Democratic socialism.
Codify one's right to choose.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Vouchers in it which would defund tens of millions of dollars in our public schools. Take money out of public schools and provide them to fancy private schools. That doesn't catch anybody up. My plan, an across-the-board 11% raise for every teacher, bus driver, mental health counselor. If we want to catch our kids up in math, they have to have a math teacher. And it's also time for universal pre-K for every 4-year-old in Kentucky.
We had to mention Attorney General Cameron. If you so choose, you have 30 seconds.
Well, the first person I'm going to enroll in the Cameron catch-up plan is Andy Beshear, because it appears he has not read my policy. My policy is about public education. I want to make sure that our schools are the best version of themselves. Again, I grew up in the Hardin County school system. My wife is a public school teacher. My sister-in-law, a public school teacher. The majority of our students are in public schools. And what Andy Beshear did in shutting down our schools for nearly 2 years is a shame. And we need a governor that is going to lean into this issue to fight for our kids and make sure that they have the best education system here possible in Kentucky.
Attorney General Cameron, thank you. Our next question, the same topic of education, coming from LEX 18 anchor Larry Smith. Governor Beshear, we will start with you.
Evan, thank you. Thank you. And again, Governor, Attorney General, thank you for your time tonight. It's an honor to be here with you. School districts all across the state are dealing with teacher shortages, obviously, and you know this, as well as too few paraprofessionals and bus drivers. Earlier this year, it was reported that at one point, Kentucky is short some 1,500 to 2,000 teachers on any given day. Kentucky's Education Commissioner recently resigned, signing the passage of Senate Bill 150, which limits sex education, transgender care, and the use of gender pronouns in schools. All this coming as reading and math scores have tanked since the pandemic. Governor Beshear, we start with you. What would your administration do in the next 4 years to reverse this course in Kentucky's public school system? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think our educators recognize a governor that's been with them every step of the way, and one that's now saying for the first time they'll be with them. See, I went to court to protect the pensions of our teachers' attorney general. This attorney general says he would have fought to support the bill and cut those pensions. I'm out in front trying to raise teacher salaries by 11%. That'd move us in starting teacher pay from 44th to the mid-20s. If we want to make sure that we have a math teacher, a physics teacher, everything we need in our classrooms, we have to pay people closer to what they're worth. And we've got to stop doing what my opponent and Matt Bevin have consistently done, which is attack our teachers. Governor Bevin called them terrible names. This attorney general claims they're doing terrible things in their classrooms. But I've heard it over and over across the state. People's kids aren't being exposed to things through the classroom or through libraries. They're being exposed to them through my opponent's commercials.
Attorney General, also to you, what would your administration do in the next 4 years to reverse this course in Kentucky's public school system? As a reminder, again, you have 60 seconds.
Well, the really important thing is to make sure that we put new board members on the Kentucky Board of Education and make sure that we have a new commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Education. The one that just resigned has displayed open hostility to our hardworking teachers. For instance, he went in front of the General Assembly and said that if any teacher does not embrace the far left ideology coming into our classroom, in the midst of a teacher shortage, his commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Education told those teachers they should just find another job. Governor Beshear, you were talking to my wife. You were talking to millions of teachers that reside here right in Kentucky that have a difference of opinion or different viewpoint. You should never have leadership in Frankfort that speaks down and denigrates our hardworking teachers. I'm going to be a governor who lifts our teachers up and does not pit a political party against our teachers. Everyone, Republican, Democrat, or Independent, needs to be working together for the benefit of our students.
Governor Beshear, rebuttal if you so choose.
Yet my opponent claims that teachers are doing things in the classroom that they're not. That is an open attack. He said he would have fought to keep those illegal cuts in place, and ask him, he is on tape. He supports a voucher program that would take tens of millions of dollars out of our public school system, out of the paychecks of our educators, out of the resources that they need, and again, send them to fancy private schools. I support public education. He does not.
We are here to defend democracy.
Misinformation poses a threat to our nation's health.
Climate change is an emergency.
Democratic socialism.
Codify women's right to choose.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Question stays on the topic of education. It comes from Gilbert Corsi. We start with Attorney General Cameron on this question.
Evan, thank you. Gentlemen, some GOP lawmakers want to split up Jefferson County Public Schools in Louisville and its near 100,000 students and $2 billion budget. It may be a part of the next legislative session and a thing that the next governor will have to deal with. So, Mr. Cameron, to you first. As governor, would you push to split up Kentucky's largest school system? Why or why not?
My first priority as the next governor of Kentucky will be to make sure we are doing responsible things to benefit our kids, whether they live in Jefferson County or if they're in Fulton County or they are in Pike County. And I want to make sure that on this question or any other topic that I talk to the legislature, but not only the legislature, talk to the school board superintendent, making sure that every stakeholder, teachers included, are a part of that conversation. We obviously understand that this has come about because there were long waits and delays as it relates to bus transportation in Jefferson County, and my heart breaks over that. There were so many kids, there were stories about some children not being able to get home until 10 p.m. at night. Again, we need leadership in Frankfort that's going to bring people together. I've demonstrated in my time as Attorney General that I know how to do that. I will do it in this scenario as well to make sure that we have the best output for JCPS and all of our public schools.
I want to redirect on that question specifically so voters have a clear understanding of where you stand on this issue. Would you, as governor, push to split up JCPS?
Well, look, I don't think we need to make a rash judgment or decision. This is the difference between me and Andy Beshear. I believe in getting folks together in a room and having a conversation. Folks like Senator McDaniel or John Schickel, who are here tonight, other members of the legislature out of Jefferson County, whether they are Republican or Democrat. I want to work alongside them to get to the best answer and solution on this question. It serves no one well to make a rash judgment here in this auditorium. What we need to do is get together with the members of our legislature, our students, our parents, and our teachers to make this judgment. Again, it was heartbreaking to see that some kids were dropped off several feet away or miles away from their home. That just should not happen. We need to have a solution, but I want to make sure we get everyone around the table to have that conversation. I have the relationships in Frankfort to get it done. Andy Beshear does not.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. To you, Mr. Beshear. Same question. Would you push as governor, if reelected, to split up JCPS? Why or why not?
Our school systems are created to be community-led. JCPS is led through a board that is elected from members of that community. A power grab by legislators to take that control away from the duly elected representatives in that county would be devastating. These are some of the same legislators that passed Matt Bevin's sewer bill and tried to cut the pensions of every teacher, police officer, and firefighter. They're the same legislators that have passed unconstitutional legislation that would take dollars out of our public schools and try to send them to private schools. We created school systems to be led by counties or the independent districts so that our parents, our citizens, could ultimately decide how our school systems move forward. And if my opponent wants to make sure that every kid gets home on time, which we need to, we ought to pay bus drivers more so we don't have a big shortage of them.
I think we ought to pay them as well.
I think you're going to have a 30-second. You mentioned your opponent, Russell.
Yeah, 30-second rebuttal.
Well, look, at the end of the day, as I said earlier, we need to make sure we have everyone talking and together on this topic. It serves no one well to make a rash decision here tonight. But I have the relationships with our legislature. I have a wife who is a school teacher, a sister-in-law who's a school teacher in JCPS. I know she was heartbroken that they had to basically sit out of school for a week because of the busing situation. Let's get it fixed so that we can educate our kids.
Thank you, gentlemen. Evan?
Megan is going to take the next question. Governor Beshear, you will start on this question. We're going to pivot topics a little bit with this one. Megan?
Thanks, Evan. Currently, Kentucky has an abortion ban whose only exception is when the life of the mother is in jeopardy. Mr. Beshear, can you clarify your position on whether there needs to be exceptions for rape or incest, and how long is that window open?
Kentucky has one of the most restrictive laws in the country. The trigger ban removes any and all options from victims of rape and incest, some as young as 9 years old. That is wrong. Yet my opponent celebrated when that law passed. He celebrated when it took effect. He's pledged to support it as it is in numerous surveys, and his lawyers are in court right now arguing that 9-year-old is not irreparably harmed if she's forced to carry her rapist's baby. It is absolutely wrong, and those individuals deserve to have options. They deserve to have choices. As Hadley said, she wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. There are people out there right now. As Attorney General, I fought for them, and I'm going to continue to fight for them. My opponent's position would give a rapist more rights than their victim. It is wrong. We need to change this law. We need to make sure that those individuals have that option.
So at how many weeks would you, for rape or incest, at what point, where's the line there?
The right way to make that decision is the way it used to be made under Roe v. Wade, taking it out of the hands of politicians and ultimately allowing courts to balance access, because that little girl might not know what she's going through for a period of time, along with the most recent scientific evidence. You know, this is the problem when people throw out week this or week that. It confuses the Kentuckians about what the law is. The law is zero. They have zero options. Think about that non-viable pregnancy where couples have been told that their baby will die moments after it's been born, but this trigger law that my opponent supports makes them give birth and hear their child die. It's extreme, it's wrong, and we really need a change.
Okay. Mr. Cameron, same question to you. In prior debates, you supported the law as is, but have since said you'd be open to exceptions. Can you clarify your position on whether there needs to be exceptions for rape or incest and how long that window is open?
Well, look, as you've heard here, I'm the pro-life candidate and Andy is the abortion candidate. And he didn't want to answer your question as it relates to what his limit is, because he doesn't want any limits on abortion. And he wants you, the taxpayer, to pay for it. When he was in my position as Attorney General, he refused to defend a 20-week ban on abortion. As governor, he has vetoed a ban on 15 weeks for abortion. And then, just recently, refused to sign legislation that would protect a baby that was born alive after a failed abortion. That is Andy Beshear's record on the issue of life. It's one of failure for the unborn. And let me also say this, his largest campaign contributor outside of Joe Biden is Planned Parenthood. So don't be at all fooled by the fact that Andy Beshear won't tell you what he wants in terms of limits, because his view on this is no limits and you, the taxpayer, to pay for it.
So how many weeks would you support abortions for those?
Well, I'm the pro-life candidate, and I've said that Andy Beshear is the abortion candidate. I've also said that if the legislature were to give me a bill with exceptions in it,
We are here to defend democracy.
Misinformation poses a threat to our nation's health.
Climate change is an emergency.
Democratic socialism.
Codify one's right to choose.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15